And he goes, Pete's out of the jet. So now we're jumping up and down. We know he's alive. We have no idea, if he's hurt or whatever, but he's out of the jet. Half an hour later, no shit, he comes back in this black Suburban. They drop him off. He's got a shot of Jack Daniels, because it's a tradition if you survive a wreck at Reno, you drink a shot of Jack Daniels. Takes the shot, gives his girlfriend a big hug, comes and gives me a hug. He's like, I'm okay, but our jet's fucked.
Cory, I appreciate you coming today. It's definitely not something that you need to do, and it kind of shows the character you are.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I kind of want to go into a few things. We have got, for the listeners out there, I just want to let them know who you are and the type of person you are,
Sure.
and some of the achievements that you've had. You've been the recipient for the 2015 40 Under 40.
Yeah, gosh, that was a while ago.
2015, yeah. And then the Inc. 5000, fastest growing private companies in America.
So we just were awarded for the second year in a row. Yeah, we're really excited. The team's doing a really good job, and we've experienced a ton of growth. And so we just found out like 3 weeks ago.
Awesome. And then also you've got the Mountain West 100.
Yeah, we also were awarded for the second year in a row the Mountain West 100. Last year we took like 27th place. We're not sure exactly what place we took this year. We'll find out. Coming up in about 2 weeks, they've got their big lunch, and we'll find out.
Where do you think you're at?
I don't know. There's been some companies with some awesome growth. So if we're anywhere in the top 50, I'll be super happy.
Yeah. And so for the listeners out there, you are currently right now the president for CB Skyshare.
Actually, the CEO.
The CEO.
Founder and CEO, yeah.
Okay. And that is going to be changing to just Skyshare coming the first of the year.
We are. We're going through, this will be our second rebrand. About 5 years ago when we came up with the idea of the shared ownership program, we changed the name to CB Skyshare from CB Aviation. And now we're going to be rebranding just to Skyshare. Keep it a little bit more simple.
Was CB Aviation, was that just airplane brokerage?
Correct. Yeah, I started the company about 13 years ago, and we were just buying and selling airplanes. So generally representing buyers and sellers, and just like a real estate broker, but our house has had wings and all over the world. And then that grew, and we bought our first FBO in Ogden, Utah, and that was about 8 years ago. And then, about 5 years ago, we came up with the idea of the shared platform, the shared ownership platform, and so that's where the name, the Skyshare, sharing the sky, came from. So
okay.
And I guess my team finally talked me into dropping my ego and getting my initials off the name of the company. So
that's why, just going Skyshare in January.
Yeah, that's the plan.
And then CB Skyshare, currently, you guys do, you have a Skyshare program. You have private charters, and then you have ownership on planes?
Yeah. So basically anything in the private jet space that we can help with. A lot of people have asked me, what is the best way to fly, or how can you fly privately? And there's really 3 different ways. And the first is like just chartering an airplane, renting an airplane. If you wanted to get a bunch of guys and go to Vegas for a weekend, we can do that, just the one-off charters. Then the other way, if you're going to be flying for more than like once a month, is really when it makes sense for the economics make sense to do something more than just regular charter. And the next step would be like a fractional ownership or a shared ownership, where you buy a portion of one airplane and then you have guaranteed availability to different models of airplanes. So we have that shared ownership platform, and then we also help people buy and sell airplanes and then help manage their airplanes, as well as if they want to charter it out when they are not flying it and kind of reduce their overall costs. So really everything in the private jet space we help with. We also have a couple FBOs, one in Ogden, Utah, and one in the Bay Area.
And then plane-wise, you've got Pilatus's, CJ2, and Excel, and then you've got the G200s, right?
Right, yeah. So, and that's for our the fractional side, the shared ownership side.
Yeah.
That we have a fleet. We've got, I believe, 9 PC-12s now, a bunch of CJ2s. We just bought our first Citation Excel, which is a mid-sized jet, and then a few of the Gulfstream G200s. And next year, we're excited. We're going to get into the heavy jet market, so we're going to be introducing the Gulfstream G450 into the fractional side too.
And then everything in aviation is like, what's your mission?
It is.
So plane-wise, different sizes and everything like that, with what you guys have to offer, what is best for short, what's best for mid?
Yeah, good question. And that's what really, when you're looking down trying to decide what airplane should I buy, it makes it very difficult because just like you said, every mission's different depending on how far, how many people, runway length, all those are considerations. And so when I'm consulting with a company or a specific person, I try and find one airplane that'll do 80% of the missions. And if we can find one airplane that does 80% of the missions, that's like a huge win, like a unicorn. And it's very difficult to do. And what's cool about like our shared ownership side is you can, once you're an owner in the program, you have the option. One day you could take the Pilatus if you wanted to go, put 8 people in, go down to Page, Arizona, go to Lake Powell, something like that. Go even to really short runways. Or if you're going to Texas and there's 4 of you, that's where the Citation CJ2 really excels. It's fast, awesome little jet. And up to the Gulfstream, if you want to go to Hawaii, you can put your family in it and make it all the Hawaii.
What's the nautical miles to Hawaii?
Gosh, I think it's around 2,700 nautical miles, something like that.
Is it?
Yeah.
You ever done any long distance in a small plane?
So I have, long time ago. I did this TV show called Dangerous Flights. This had been about 10 years ago, and I did it with Discovery Channel of Canada, and it was really cool. It was about the Discovery was following myself and the company as I sold and delivered these small airplanes, and we delivered them all over the world. So I had a little Cessna that I flew all the way to Poland. We took out the back seats, put a big fuel tank in the back, and then did like 10 stops to get over the North Atlantic from like Canada to Greenland to Iceland to Scotland. It was pretty fun. So for the 3 years we were filming, it's pretty fortunate. I flew to 32 different countries and almost died a couple times, but luckily that's why it's called Dangerous Flights. I don't think I'll ever fly a single engine piston over the ocean again. I've checked that checked that box rather, but it was a good time. So yeah, I've been lucky. I've traveled, flown all over the world.
How did you get into how did your career started?
I actually spent about 15 years right after high school in the car business, started selling cars, and my ultimate goal was to become a pilot, but in the car business I was good at it, started making a lot of money, and so at that point in time I was 18, 19 years old and didn't really want to take a huge pay cut and go spend $100,000 in private pilot's lessons to go work for SkyWest at a third that I was making, and so I decided I was just going to stay in the car business and then work really hard, and I was promoted very quickly in that industry, and then bought my own airplane, just got my own private pilot's license, and I ended up about 15 years in the industry and ended up ultimately owning a couple different car dealerships, Ford dealership. I was the minority owner of the Ford dealership at one point in time, and then a couple used car dealerships, and then finally decided it's not all about the money. I want to be happy and I want to follow my passion, and my passion was always in the airplanes. Even when I was in the car industry, I was buying and flipping airplanes for fun, bought a couple off eBay, some crazy stories there. And then I said, you know what, in 2009, I'm just going to sell the car dealerships back to my partners, and started CB Aviation back then in one little office at the Ogden Airport, and had no idea what the hell I was doing, and just started cold calling aircraft owners, and then that kind of kicked it off. So
did you have somebody helping you with that in the beginning?
No, I did it all myself. There was my buddy that was working with me in the car industry. His name was Claire. Came with me from the car dealership and worked with me for a few years, but really had no idea what I was doing. I mean, I just took what I thought I knew and learned from the car business, and understood it was just another, we're just selling an object, and so learned as much as I could, stayed up all night researching online and learning airplanes, and then really just started I bought a list of aircraft owners and started cold calling them and talked a few into letting me list their airplane, and then it turned to a few more, and got it going.
Was that nerve-wracking?
Oh, yeah. I had no idea if it was going to work or how it was going to work. And let me rephrase that. I knew it was going to work. I believed it was going to work, but I had no idea how it was going to work.
Yeah.
I didn't know the how, but I believed in myself, and I believed that I could make it work. I just needed to figure out how.
Yeah. And at that point, I listened to some of the other podcasts and stuff like that you've been on. I think you said at that point you did not want to go back or return back to car dealers.
Yeah, there's the old story of the burning of the ships,
Yep.
you know, and I don't know that I don't want to like mess up that story and tell it incorrectly, but the moral of the story was they were going into war and they showed up by ship, and so the commander said burn the ship, so they had only one choice, was to win. And so I actually took my car salesman license and had a big cigar, and I burnt it when I was skiing up at Snow Basin, got a picture of it, and I was like, I'm never going back. So, and the car industry is great. I'm not taking anything away from it. It's been great to my family and my friends and everything like that, but I was just at a point in my life that I wanted to do what I love. It was worth it to me to take a step back in my income and my lifestyle to actually want to go to work and do something I'm passionate about.
That's awesome. That's awesome. What was the first plane you bought?
So back then, I really wasn't inventorying any airplanes. I was just representing the owner. And so the very first airplane I sold was a old Cessna 310, and sold it to a guy in Tanzania, Africa, actually.
The 310.
Yeah, and it was like a $40,000 or $50,000 airplane back then. And then the second one was from a doctor here in Utah, and it was a big turboprop, a Merlin 3. Yeah, again, had no idea what I was doing. Like, just try to find a way to make myself and my company unique from the rest of the competitors. And so nobody back then was doing any video as a way of marketing the airplane. It was all just a bunch of 5 or 6 shitty pictures that they put online. And so that was kind of my unique of what made us different is we were going to do a really, really cool video tutorial on the airplane and put it to music and have some highlights and whatnot. So that's what kind of got us going.
And that worked out well?
It did. I mean, it gave me at least something different to talk about. And the owners, the buyers really liked it. I actually believe it helped our sales tremendously because people felt like they knew more what they were buying versus the other airplane that they were comparing to that there was only a couple pictures.
YouTube is full of it now.
Yeah. Oh, and almost all the big brokering houses do it, and they do a great job of it. But yeah, we were the first ones back then. That's
awesome. I've watched a ton of YouTube videos going through all the airplanes and stuff like that. So those are pretty fun. How did you get your license? How did you learn?
I just called a little private pilot school out at the West Jordan Airport and just showed up and did a discovery flight. And then I was just paying, I was selling cars at that point in time, like I said, and I just paid for each lesson I went to. It took me about 6 months.
Just using their trainer plane?
Exactly. Renting little Cessna 152s.
Is that what it was?
So I flew a 152 up until I started my cross countries, and then I went to a Cessna 172. And then got my private pilot's license in that. And then quickly after that, I bought an ownership share in a Cessna Turbo 210. So that was awesome.
How'd that work out? How does that ownership share work out?
So there's lots of different ways to structure it. But for us, there was 4 other guys and myself, and we just each pitched in. You own a share of the airplane, and then we divide up the maintenance costs equally, and then we just pay for our own expenses.
Have you ever financed a plane?
Sure. Yeah.
Because that's kind of a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
If you don't know where to go.
Yeah. There's some banks that really specialize in that, so I'd recommend, checking into, and it also, each bank depends on how expensive the aircraft is. So a $200,000 plane, that bank's going to be much different than a $10 million, business jet. But
the banks is where it's at.
Yeah, if you're going to finance it for sure.
Yeah. What banks is it?
So there's actually a bunch of different ones. Like we use First Source Bank is who we use on the majority of our business jets that we're buying and selling. But there's a couple other good ones. We've used Bank of Utah actually.
I'm asking for a friend.
Yeah, we're going to hook you up. You ready to buy your airplane, Cade?
I want to be.
Let's do it.
Itching. I'm itching. I trained in a 160 that was like a 180 engine in it. Piper
cool.
180.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cherokee. So Hershey bar, wings.
Yeah. So I own a little Piper Warrior, so a 160 basically, what you're talking about. That is a company plane. So one of the benefits of anybody that works for my organization is they can go fly the plane for free. They just put gas in it. And so we've got a lot of our guys that are pumping gas into the airplanes at the FBOs. They're aspiring pilots, and so they get to just go cruise around in the little Piper.
They already have their license, or they just
A
learn
lot
it
of
in
them,
it as
yeah. Well, we don't do any training in it, so it's guys that already have their license, but
Yeah.
just trying to build time, because that's the biggest thing as a young pilot is you need to build time in the airplane before you can go and look to get hired as a commercial pilot.
And is that is insurance, whether it's a trainer or what you guys have got going on, is it different?
Yeah. There's different insurance companies that will specialize in the different type of flying, like the business jet underwriters are generally different than the general aviation Pipers and Cessnas and whatnot.
Okay. When did you get the bug?
Man, for as far back as I can remember, like I thought I always wanted to be a pilot. And the cool part with where I'm at now is I get the best of both worlds, because being in the car industry for a long time and ultimately owning, the car dealerships, I really got the bug of the business side and growing people and managing the company and trying to grow a business. And so now, today, I've got if I were to sit down on a piece of paper and write my dream job, that's what I do every single day, because I get to fly the airplanes. Probably my most favorite part of my position right now is when someone's looking to buy into our Skyshare program, to the shared ownership program, we'll generally do a demo flight. And so I'll have the prospective buyer, which is generally an entrepreneur, C-level executive, very wealthy person, sit next to me, and they get to experience like sitting in the cockpit and hearing me talk to ATC as we go on the demo flight, and I get to know them and get to learn about their family and their business and their success and their trials. And so it's pretty cool. I got to scratch the itch of flying and working really hard to grow the company at the same time.
So on those demo flights, it's usually, if it's just two of you or something, you'll usually put them in the co-pilot?
Yeah. If it's on the bigger jets, we always run two pilots.
Yeah.
But if it's like in the Pilatus, we have the option to put them up in the front seat. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So along with being a savvy businessman, you're also an actor, right?
I don't know about that.
Actor-ish.
I mean, there was the Dangerous Flights TV show that we were talking about earlier back in the day.
Yeah.
That was fun. You know, I don't consider myself an actor or have any drive to be an actor, but it was a good time.
But anybody watch, so YouTube is where anybody can see that.
Yeah, I think it's still on there. You must be really, really bored and have to be late at night where you can't sleep to be worth it to watch it.
Dude, I watched it. That was because then it was Airplane Repo as well, wasn't it?
Well, I was on one episode of Airplane Repo.
Yeah. Where
they called us and they were trying to repossess a Grumman Albatross, big flying boat. So. That was fun. That's the fun flying, just flying that airplane.
Was it? What's the most interesting airplane you've ever flown?
That would definitely be one of them. So Grumman Albatross is just a massive 1952 flying boat, basically.
Oh, you got that up. Put up that Gremlin Albatross.
And so one of my best friends in the entire world who helped me a lot in business, unfortunately passed away from cancer a couple years ago, but he actually gave me a loan to help buy the first FBO. He was an amazing guy, but I helped him and managed all his airplanes, and he was a pretty funny guy where we had a really nice jet, a smaller airplane, and he saw me on a wing of another Grumman Albatross. We're floating in Lake Powell and jumping off the wing and whatnot, and he called me, and he was a single kind of playboy, and he's like, "What plane are you on?" I'm like, "Oh my God, it's this beautiful like Grumman Albatross. We're in the middle of Lake Powell." And he asked me, "Well, how many girls can we put on it?" So I was like, "Well, we can put probably like 15 or 16. He's like, "Sell the jet. Let's go get an Albatross." So we went and bought this old Grumman Albatross, and we restored it and just made it just such a cool flying machine. But we would put 15, 16 people in it at Ogden and go right down and land in Lake Powell next to the houseboat. I mean, some of the funnest, most amazing trips we've had.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah. We've had that plane, and I still have it. I don't know. We need to get it back flying, so that's what it looks like right there, yeah.
That thing's rad.
And I'm sure there's a picture of ours on there somewhere, but
I would imagine there's not too many of them.
Is there one on your Instagram?
There may be, or on Facebook maybe a long time ago. We haven't had it in the air for like 3 years. Mm-hmm. When he got sick, we just kind of put it away. But that's one of my goals. I want to get that big grill up and flying again.
Dude, that's crazy.
We had it on Tahoe. He had a big house up in McCall, Idaho, so we'd land up there. I got special permission one day to land at Pineview. That was cool. That was a pretty crazy.
How'd you get that permission?
I had to call like 15 different park rangers and finally got a hold of the right person that could give us permission. So
that's crazy, dude. There can't be that many of those planes around.
I think there's 9 flying right now.
Serious?
Yeah. So there's only a few of them that are alive and still kicking.
Worth some good money?
They're not terribly expensive to buy. I mean, everything's relative, right? It's probably nothing compared to a multi-million-dollar jet. You can buy a nice one for like $300,000, but then just to keep them going, like the maintenance on those old girls are a lot. So,
and like a lot of people that look to buy planes and stuff, I don't think that they realize that that annual and everything, the maintenance and stuff like that is what costs a ton of money on them.
Yeah, absolutely. You're exactly right. Like buying the airplane is just the cheap part of it. It's the maintenance and the hangar insurance and FAA compliance and all the other stuff that goes along with it. And if you're hiring pilots, that plus their training. So it's definitely an expensive hobby, but it changes your life. Like if you're at a point where you can afford to do it and you can not have to drive down to the airport, get there 2 hours early, go through TSA, go through the whole pat down, and then be in the back of an airplane with 300 other people versus where you can literally drive up to the airplane, the pilot has the door down, you walk on and you're like in the air in 10 minutes.
Gone.
I mean, the other thing that's really cool about flying private is the U.S., like in the U.S., the airlines fly to about 500 airports. So there's 500 different airports that the commercial airlines will go to. Flying private, there's about 5,500. So we can, like Southern California is a great example. There's hundreds of airports in Southern California, so you don't have to go into LAX or John Wayne. We can get you into the city where your meeting's at or very close and avoid all the congestion, everything like that.
And then like altitude-wise for commercial planes, are they usually around like 35?
Yeah, just depending on what type of plane, but like the 737 is generally in the low 30s, and some of the smaller ones are in the low 40s. But like our CJ and Gulfstream are generally above them.
Yeah.
Like our little CJ2 will fly 45,000 feet.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Little faster?
Some of them, like the Gulfstream is, and the CJ's a little bit slower.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, I was on a Challenger 350 the other day.
Awesome airplane.
Badass.
Yep.
Badass.
That's a sexy bird.
Yeah. Felt like a stud walking up, and you got like the Maverick guys getting in a little teeny, jet, just crouching down, getting into it, like 5, 6, 7 of them piling up.
Yeah.
And then, you walk into that 350 and it's just full, like 6 foot something door opening. And
where'd you go?
Went to California.
Oh, cool.
All. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yep. So got lucky with that flight to be able to take that and go there. So
nice.
that was an awesome bird.
See, you've tasted it.
Oh,
it's hard to
dude.
go back now.
It's hard to go back. It's way hard to go back.
So that's why we need to get you into Skyshare.
And that was why I reached out to you and started talking to you about it and everything. So the goal, everybody's got their vision board and their goals and stuff like that. And
well, you should. Not everybody does.
that is true. Everybody better have it. They should.
Right.
So, but definitely my vision board is in outer space a little bit with the stuff that I have on it. So, which you do a lot of what's on my vision board.
Oh, really?
Yeah, hell yeah, dude.
Well, I'm back to the vision boards. Like, I think that's what makes the people that are actually achieving it different from the people that are just dreaming about it. Like, you do have to have a vision board. You do have to have goals. Like, you have to have that stuff written down and visualize it and be able to look at it like on your vision board, or it's just never going to happen.
Dude, the time will just fly by.
Yeah.
And 40 years will pass, and you didn't even do anything about it.
The thing I started doing a couple years ago, which was pretty impactful for me, is I took my goals and I broke it down by like my family goals, my spiritual goals, my business goals, and my personal goals, and then I laminated and I put it in my shower. So every single day, like, I'm forced to look at it. And then this year I did also, I have pictures of the future airplanes that we want in the program, and I have them in front of the treadmill. So like while I'm running, I'm just like constantly staring at them.
What planes do you want?
I want to, like I said earlier, I want to go to the G450.
Yeah.
I want to take our shared ownership program to the next level, where we have an airplane with worldwide capability, and here to Europe, big bad boy. So that's the goal.
Any rotary thoughts or anything like that?
I don't think so, but you never say never.
Yeah.
Right now, our sweet spot is in the the private jet space, plus the Pilatus. And so we'll see.
What are some of your goals?
Gosh, I've got lots of goals. I do want to finish and get my helicopter rating.
Yeah.
So about 8-9 years ago, I was doing the helicopter lessons and then just stopped right before I was almost finished. We bought a new airplane. I started flying that, and then life got in the way. And so next year, that is one of the goals, is definitely do that. And then we always have some personal goals, like just little stuff, how many times I exercise, like I want to take my mom on a date once a month, like stuff like that. And then when it comes to business size, I have revenue goals and also employee goals. And so in our business, we're very specific in our goals on that side.
Were you born and raised in Utah?
I was, yeah.
Were you? Is your mom here? Your
Yep.
parent?
My dad passed from cancer, unfortunately, about 10 years ago. My mom lives here in just West Jordan.
So you're able to do that date?
Yeah. We did it last night. My boy turned 17, and so we all went out to dinner. So I checked that off as the date.
How many kids do you have?
I have 2. So Jackson, again, turned 17. He lives with me. And my daughter, cute little Brenna, she's 14 years old.
She live with her mom?
She does, yeah.
Does she?
I have her part-time. So really, really fun, good kids. It's amazing how fast they grow up, though. It's like shocking to think that Jackson will be 18 in a year from now and potentially moving out.
That is crazy. I've got 4 under 12.
That's a busy household.
It is a busy household. Yeah, and like sports.
Yeah.
We get through football, or we're partially the way through football, and I'll be coming home from work, and bless my wife, she freaking does so much. But I'll end up calling her up, and I'll be like, where are you at? And she's like, I'm at basketball. I'm like, oh, my God. She puts them in, like, every sport, guitar, horseback riding. I'm like, oh, my gosh.
That's awesome.
She does so much.
That's good for the kids, though.
She does so much. It's wild.
So Brenna joined the cross-country mountain bike racing team. So this is her first year doing that. She's liking that. And she has been a comp cheerleader for the last 7 years. So we've traveled all over the country with her and her cheerleading. And then Jackson's just a phenomenal snow skier. So I had to admit to him in front of all his friends that he finally is better than his dad. So
At skiing?
Yeah, he landed his first backflip and 360s everywhere. It's fun to watch him.
Serious?
So that and surfing, like we love surfing behind the boat all summer long.
Yeah.
So
Did you used to race motorcycles?
yeah, just at an amateur level.
Yeah. Around here?
Long time ago when I was in high school. So I was doing motocross growing up, and then I did a little street bike racing. And when I got married, I sold the race bikes, and then now just love riding Harleys and dirt bikes. Tomorrow we're going out to Sand Dunes, go play on the side-by-sides and the dirt bikes.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So racing was or anything like that, was that just a little short stint?
It was just fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely loved it. But I was novice class, and it's just a good time.
I raced for about 4 years.
Oh, did you?
Yeah,
really?
it was a huge part of my life.
Where were you racing?
It was the circuit was USRA.
Okay, yeah.
And then Wild West.
Yeah.
So there was 2 different circuits, and they raced every other weekend, and so we were gone every week.
I actually have my 450 in the back of my truck in your parking lot.
Do you?
Yeah.
What year is it?
2021.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice. I have the last bike I got it's a 2009.
Okay.
Yeah, YZ 450. So
I love the YZs.
just before the fuel injected, though.
Oh, the electric start's the best.
Yeah. Are you on a Yamaha then?
Yep.
Hell yeah, that's the only way to go.
Yeah.
That's the only way to go. Anybody riding Hondas, Suzuki's, Cowies, you guys are missing out.
That KTM 300 is pretty sick.
The KTM's, yeah, that's 2-stroke though, isn't it?
It is,
Yeah.
but my buddies that have it just love it. So.
See, my whole racing and everything for me was all 2-stroke.
Okay.
So I stopped racing. I was on 125s, and then I gave it. It was probably 4 years goes by, and then I buy a 450. Totally different animal.
Yeah.
Totally different animal.
They're so much fun.
Yeah. They just rip.
You're not riding anymore?
I don't. Kind of the same thing. Business.
Yeah.
Work. It's kind of funny. You think you're going to have more time when you start a company.
No.
Not at all.
Yeah.
No. That's why I got to do a fun one, like airplanes and stuff.
You've got your fun coming. You're building cool stuff.
We're working on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got some good stuff coming up. So, what have you guys got coming up?
Oh, geez. Within the business, you mean?
Yeah.
So it's been just a wild ride the last 4 years, almost 5 years. We've doubled in employee count and revenue almost every year and just had this amazing growth. And so right now we're really just focusing on building the processes. So I'm not really answering your question, but what do we have looking forward to? Like we're trying to just get everything a lot tighter. Try to, the only way that we can really scale this company to the way where we want it to go is to be able to have a playbook for every single position. So that's what we've been working on really diligently this year, is creating the processes, making sure that people are following them, building the team. And it's like that what that, the book Good to Great says is get the people on the bus and put them in the right seat. So I'm very, very fortunate. We've got an exceptionally smart management team that has enabled us to grow. And so we're working on that, and then just want to sell more airplanes and sell more people into the Skyshare program. And we're sitting in a good place right now, especially here in Utah, where the economy is just, even though it'll be interesting over the next 18 months, there's a lot of people moving to Utah with Silicon Slopes and everything like that, we just want to help everybody.
Yeah. Do you think you'll ever retire?
I don't know. I'd be bored.
I'd be bored as hell.
So many people ask me, what's your exit plan? And I don't have an exit plan right now.
That was going to be my question, is what's your exit plan? What are you thinking?
Neither of my kids seem to have the bug, and that could change tomorrow. You never know. But I really enjoy the journey. I don't think there's an ultimate destination for me. There's not a revenue or a dollar amount or a net worth amount or a size of the company. For me personally, I'm enjoying like the journey of building it and flying newer and funner airplanes. As today, we picked up a brand new airplane from the factory for one of our clients and went through that delivery experience. So stuff like that. So kind of going on a tangent there, but I would love to, eventually maybe not work as many hours as I'm working, per week. But if it got to a point that I was still sitting in a board position, but still watch the baby grow.
Yeah.
So
that'd be a good spot.
Yeah.
I think very few people are in your position of doing what they actually love. I think a lot of people are in a spot that are just grinding, and you know what I mean? Not kind of like what you were talking about with the car dealership. You were waking up and you didn't really want to go into work. Yeah.
I tell my kids, I said, just do what you love. And if you work really hard on it, if you're passionate about it, the money will follow. And I can tell you, I deal with multimillionaires every single day, and there's some that are extremely happy, and there's a lot of them that are miserable. Money does not buy happiness. It may buy the boat that goes behind the truck, and I agree all that is happy, but happiness comes within, and it's I also believe that money only makes you more of what you already are. If you're a good person, if you're a happy person, more money is only going to make you a better person and even happier. And if you're a miserable piece of shit and you're not a good person, then those are the unhappy rich people that you see. So, yeah, back to what you're saying. Like, if you can find something you're passionate about, find something you really care about, like make your job not turn into a job, turn it into something you're really passionate about, or change industries. Go find something you are. I'd much rather be happy than rich.
I think, I think on the podcast you said that you'd much rather give up some money to be happy.
Yeah.
So.
And again, if you work hard enough and you have a plan and you work your plan, I don't care what industry it is, you can make money. It doesn't matter what you want to do. It honestly doesn't.
Yeah.
So if you want to be a skier, be the best at it, and you can make money.
Yeah. Like you were saying, kind of going back to that, with your company right now, you're putting the manual together, the playbook, per se. With DKA, that's the same exact thing we're doing right now. It's just trying to figure out how we can be skinny, lean, efficient, have a manual for everybody so everybody's position, they know what they're doing. Construction can be a little bit tough because we're bidding. You can miss stuff on the bid.
Sure.
Material can constantly change.
Right.
So there's so many moving parts to it that you just constantly have to watch it and make sure you're buying the right stuff and right price and everything like that. So that's right now for me, that's the same exact thing, is just getting that manual in place,
right?
Getting lean and being super efficient and just keep grinding. Just keep
And I
kicking
think
ass.
that's the different stages of growing a business to what it goes through, right? Back in the day, it was just you and a couple people, and you're doing everything.
We got the job.
You are everything,
Yep.
right? You're
Yep.
from the estimator to the accounting, like all the way around. And as businesses and really in any industry grow, it'll get to a point that if you want to scale, if you don't want to be the mom and shop that does everything, you have to create these processes. You have to hire the right people, put them in the right seat. They have to have their playbook of what they're going to do so that you don't do it all. And Cade, like 4 or 5 years ago, even 3 years ago, like there was no org chart within my company. If there was one, again, there wasn't one, there would be like 14 people that were reporting just to me. And I was trying to be the man answering every single one of the questions and making all the answers. And that's not scalable, and it's not a quality of life that I wanted. And so us, as we brought on more of our leadership team, we got real specific on, all right, who do we want to be as a company? And how do we want, what does that company look like 3 years, 5 years, 10 years down the road? And then we kind of work backwards from that. But if you can start hiring the right people and giving them the autonomy to make those decisions with the process like we're talking about, that's what's been the biggest change within my company. I can just speak for myself that now it's like, wow, we've got a team that can actually handle it. And we're not perfect. Shit happens. We're dealing with airplanes, and like I had an airplane today that the weather was bad and we couldn't get in, and the owner's frustrated. And there's certain things that we can and cannot control, but if we focus on what we can control, and we're always looking to, when we do mess up, to make it better.
Yeah, and the business-wise, it's always evolving. Like you were just saying, if you're small, the positions are all me, and that's what it is. And as you start growing, it's not like you can hire every position.
Right.
If you're going to be like a $50 million company, you're going to have set positions for these people. But you can't start out at $1 million company and bring those people on in those positions unless you got a bunch of capital that you want to burn up while you're trying to get work. So you're always just evolving as your company grows, and it's kind of that dollar amount. You know what I mean? If you go to the next step, you're going to need this.
Right.
And these people in place.
Absolutely.
So it can be a tough sport being an entrepreneur, but I wouldn't have it any other way.
Absolutely. And it's not for everybody.
No.
Right?
I got short-term memory.
Yeah. It's like it's a lot of work, but there's a lot of reward at the same time. So like there's a lot of my friends, they're perfectly happy doing what they're doing, and they get a punch in, and when they're done, they punch out, and they don't have to think about work. Like we're thinking about work all the time. Like when something goes wrong, our phone's going to ring at 3 a.m, and we got to handle it.
Yeah.
So,
like right now, thinking about work, just kind of thinking about it. So I want to dive into the airplane repo.
Yeah.
Let's dive into that. Let's talk about some stories about you being on TV and stuff like that.
So the airplane repo one, unfortunately, I only did just the one episode because they knew that I had been involved with the Grumman Albatross, and I knew the pilots, and so we repossessed, in quotation marks, the Albatross. It was kind of a fun deal, and so that was a good experience. The Dangerous Flights rather, is the one that I did 2 seasons with, and I was a lot more intimately involved in that one. And that one was just an incredible experience. Like I was still a fairly young pilot in experience and total time and whatnot, and I was able to fly with some of the most incredible pilots literally all over the world. So I had an experience, still one of my best friends to this day, Pete Zaccanino. He's a test pilot, won Reno air races multiple times, and I met him through that show, and we flew small airplanes all over. Like we picked one airplane up from we tried to get it out of Africa. We're in South Africa, had 2 emergency landings because the engine kept failing. That was an old piece of shit. So we left it there, sold it, and just...
You left it? Yeah. You just left it there and
that
sold it? That
was an airplane I bought. I was trying to bring it back for me, and it just never worked right. We kept burning up turbos every time we flew it. So
you're like, F this.
That's exactly.
Keep it there, sell it there, get rid of it.
Wrote that one off. There was another time, probably one of my most favorite trips was Pete and I again, and we flew this Cessna Caravan. So it's a single-engine turboprop, so it's like a 8 to 9 seater airplane.
Yeah.
More of like a utilitarian, rugged airplane. You can land on dirt strips. We picked it up in New Orleans, and then went all the way up over the North Atlantic, so all the way up through New York, Montreal, Greenland, Iceland, Scotland. We went down and landed so on that trip, we landed at 2 of what Discovery Channel calls the 10 most dangerous runways. So one was in Sarsawat, Greenland, which was just intense. It's like you're landing in these small little canyons, and you got to get it right, and the weather changes all the time. Really crazy.
How's the approach? Is it quick?
Yeah, and you have one approach in, and you really want to land. If you aren't able to land to the north, you have to land to the south. You fly into the mountains, and to make the turn is pretty sketchy. But then the even more fun than that one is when we got down to in Europe, we went to Courchevel. So I don't know if you've heard of Courchevel.
Mm-mm.
So it's in the French Alps. It's actually in a ski resort, and it's a very, very short runway. So it's like, if I remember right, 2,000 feet plus or minus. But most of the runway's at almost a 19-degree angle. So you land, you touch down on the wheels, and then you're idle, and then you're back at full power on the wheels as you go up the runway to the top. So it's one of the coolest runways I've ever landed at. And then the return, and what makes that runway so dangerous is the airplane cannot outclimb the terrain. So there is no go around. You got one chance because you're going to hit the mountain.
Yeah.
Then on the way out, it's like a roller coaster. You're sitting there ready to take off, and you can't even see the runway in front of you because it just dips down. So it's pretty tense. So that was super cool. And that one, we went all the way down to Kenya, Africa. So from Courchevel, we went down to where did we go from there? We went down to Croatia, which was absolutely beautiful. Then into Greece. We had 2 stops in Egypt. We landed in South Sudan. That was sketchy. So Discovery Channel, like, it's so dangerous down there that they wouldn't even allow the directors to stay on the airplane. So they got off in Egypt, and they airlined to Addis Ababa in Ethiopia, where we were going next. And so just Pete and I were taking the airplane in. And it was sketch. So we had to take on descent. We hit all the cameras. You just never know what's going to happen. We luckily got gas and got out of there.
If anybody listening to this dude is going to think this is just crazy.
Yeah.
This is crazy.
So I got a funny story.
Okay.
That hopefully it's not too gross. But so when we landed in South Sudan, my stomach was just not feeling good from the food in Egypt. And so we landed, and I had to pay what they call handler just $100 just to use the restroom. So, and I did the waddle as fast as I could to the restroom, right? So I did my business, and I'm looking all around, and there's no toilet paper. I'm like, what the hell is going on? And it's like this bucket, and I won't tell you exactly what I did, but then I go back to the airplane, and Pete looks at me, and he's sitting there in the captain's chair, and he's just smiling. He's got this Tupperware little box on his lap. And he opens it, and he just pulls out this toilet paper, and I'm like, you are such an asshole. And he's like, you should know we're below the TP line. He's like, there's a lot of the countries south of the equator that they don't use toilet paper. So he's all tapping his fingers. He's like,
that's the TP line?
We were below it. And he's like, so what did you do? And I was like, I lifted up my pants, and I only had one sock on. And he just started laughing his ass off. So
it's either the underwear or the sock.
It was disgusting. So I learned my lesson. I carry my little toilet paper with me on these long ferry flights.
What's the craziest place you've been to?
Well, most dangerous probably is South Sudan right there. But crazy, we had some awesome, when we were down in Africa, we had some really cool off-field landings. We went and landed at this little tiny dirt strip in the middle of nowhere where literally we had to buzz it 3 times to get giraffes and all these wildlife off the runway. It was pretty cool. So that was cool. Domestically, some of the cool airports, South Lake Tahoe is absolutely gorgeous. You're flying the approaches all the way in over Lake Tahoe, and it's just stunning. Where else? Catalina Island. It's a cool runway to land at because it's on on the bluff, and there's basically no margin for error. It's just 1,500 feet down to the ocean, rock cliffs on both sides. Yeah.
Who was flying with you on the dangerous flights when you had the fuel tanks in the plane?
So we did that a couple. I've had ferry tanks, what they call them, but I've had it in a couple different airplanes. So Randy was another captain I flew with a long, long time ago, and we did that in a little 4-seater Cessna that we took to Poland. And then there was the very first episode we ever did.
Was it a Bonanza? What was that?
That one was a Cessna 206.
Oh, okay.
The very first episode we did was a Merlin 3 to Australia, and we took out, and that a Merlin 3 is like a 10-passenger big twin-engine turboprop.
Yeah.
We took out all the back seats behind us, and we had 2 massive aluminum fuel tanks in the back. So we had about 2,400 pounds of fuel in the airplane, which is crazy to think. And then we had this little plywood thing with 2 Napa Auto Parts fuel pumps, literally, that we had valves that we could turn on and off that would then pump the fuel into the tank. So it was pretty sketch. All FAA approved, and we had to get all these waivers and whatnot to do it, but that was a fun trip. So we went from Southern Cal to Hawaii, stayed a couple days, Hawaii down to the Americas Samoas, Pago Pago. Stayed one night there. I got chased by wild dogs on my run in the jungle. Probably one of the most scaredest I've ever been. Like these little skinny wild dogs were chasing me. It was freaking nuts. And then the next day we went to New Caledonia, which was right by Fiji. Beautiful, like just a stunning little island. And then from there we went into Australia. So.
And Caledonia? Mm-hmm. Is that where they shut down the airport on the... Is that the one where they supposedly shut down the airport?
Gosh, they did. You're right. Oh my gosh, I forgot about that. So we were, and we checked all the NOTAMs. Is all the is how all the NOTAMs are basically what we check before we fly to see if there's any notices that we need to know about. And there wasn't any. But these legs were so long. There was about 8 hours and 15 minutes that we were in the air that they had shut down the runway without us knowing. So we're halfway there. We find out that the runway shut down, and so we're trying to figure out what we're going to do. We slowed the plane down. We were going to either go land at Fiji or turn around, and then luckily they opened it up like just right before we landed. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Nerve-wracking?
Sometimes, yeah. That one, yeah. We're always looking. We try to, at least when we're flying, is always have a backup plan and a backup plan for that plan. So we were never in a life or death situation, but it always intensifies it when it's not going according to plan.
Yeah, because like fuel-wise, did you have gauges on those tanks?
No. So there's no gauges on them. So we're basically calculating our fuel burn the whole time.
And trying to figure out how much fuel's in it?
Yeah, yeah. So again, this is like you have to have special permits. They have to be approved by the FAA. This is one-time permits you do to move these airplanes. When we took that airplane, like our first takeoff out of, I'm trying to remember what town we were in California, but we were 2,500 pounds overweight. So every airplane has weight limits, the gross max takeoff weight rating, and we're 2,500 pounds over that just because of all the fuel. Again, permitted, we're legal, but it's like sketch a little bit.
Well, and then it's hard to gauge your fuel depending on weight,
right?
Altitude. It all varies and all changes it.
You're exactly right. 'Cause the plane doesn't perform like it normally would if it was
higher up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that'd be tough. Like you'd have to constantly be monitoring it.
Yeah.
But I'm sure, like you said, you had, you were making sure that had plenty of fuel regardless.
Yeah. Fuel is the one thing you always want.
Yeah. How many places have you been to? Do you have count?
I've been to every state in the U.S.
Do you have a map at your house where you're like pinning
I
stuff?
I should. It was either 32 or 34 countries.
Yeah.
And then every state in the U.S. But Pete, the guy I keep talking about, he's been to every country in the entire world except for one, Madagascar. He's flown privately to every country in the entire world. Like
serious?
That guy's an animal. Yeah.
That is crazy. God, I want to talk about the air race.
Yeah.
Dude, that was kind of a cool story.
Did you watch this year's?
I did not, no. I want to go out there. I want to go to the air races.
So Pete was racing this year, and
Was it earlier this year?
it's the third week of September.
Okay,
So
yes.
it was just a couple weeks ago.
Just a couple weeks ago. Okay.
Yeah.
Something else happened again?
Yeah, so Pete's in the jet class. So these jets, are you guys familiar with the Reno Air races? So there's like 8 airplanes, and they run little small single engine pistons to like the P-51 Mustangs is like the unlimited class, and then there's the jet class, which are old trainer, like warbird trainers. So L-29s, L-39s. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but I owned one of the race planes back in 15, and Pete and I were partners on it. He was flying it and racing it, and we won. So it was pretty cool. We won their races. The next year we went back, and our airplane looked, if you Google a de Havilland Vampire, it looks completely different than most of them. What is it? De Havilland Vampire. Don't ask me how to spell de Havilland. But it's most of them are like a tandem, like the 2 pilots like this, and on the Vampire you'll see is a side-by-side with the weird tail.
Oh, yeah.
So, again, we won in 15. And
Click on it and bring it big.
In 16, the right side of the windshield, the canopy broke at 550 miles an hour.
The right side?
Yeah, and so it's like you had a broken windshield going 500 miles an hour. And so he pulled up out of the racetrack and realized, okay, I've got control of the airplane. He slowed it down, went to idle, and it's like, okay, I got control. And he went to turn to go, turn to go back to the runway and give it gas, and the engine had flamed out and couldn't get it restarted. My opinion is all the plexiglass ingested in the motor and took the motor out.
Yeah. That's a wild-looking plane.
It is. I have one still that needs to be restored. But so he crashed in the desert, but did the most beautiful crash landing. Kept the gear up and just slid it in. If you go to NBC Sports Reno Air Races, you can watch them. They got it on video, him crashing it.
Could you see him go down?
Yeah.
Were you guys there?
Well, what was scary is he was on the far side of the track, so he's probably 5 miles away from us.
Yeah.
And we knew he made it, and so I kept saying he's going down, and everybody's like, no, it's the other one. And they realized I was right, and all we see is this, what we thought was smoke, but it was all this dust. So his girlfriend starts crying, everybody starts crying, and all the paramedics and fire trucks and everybody rushing out there. The race ended, just there was one lap left, and one of our buddies just raced over there, and we can hear all the racers talking to each other because we're in the pits.
Yeah.
And he goes, Pete's out of the jet. So now we're jumping up and down. We know he's alive. We have no idea, if he's hurt or whatever, but he's out of the jet. Half an hour later, no shit, he comes back in this black Suburban. They drop him off. He's got a shot of Jack Daniels because it's a tradition. If you survive a wreck at Reno, you drink a shot of Jack Daniels. Takes the shot, gives his girlfriend a big hug, comes and gives me a hug. He's like, I'm okay, but our jet's fucked. I was like, I don't care, you're alive. It buckled the whole thing in half.
Is that pretty fast?
Yeah, that's 600. Altitude 600 miles an hour. But at the Reno Air Races.
You're low, aren't you?
50 to 250 feet. You're right over the ground. But what was sad this year, if you Google Reno Air Races 2022, on Sunday, the first place jet that was right in front of Pete crashed and died.
Are you serious?
Yeah, big old fireball. It was horrible. It's like any of those top ones. Or to go down, sorry, not that one. The one with the picture, the video.
Live stream.
Yeah.
Jet crash.
Yeah. It was so freaking sad.
You were there?
Yeah. So they canceled obviously the rest of the races, and it was just a fireball. We think what happened is he was about to get past.
Yeah.
Again, 50 feet off the ground, and he's supposed to go around this pylon. Again, that's just my theory, but he was cutting it, and I think he was looking at the other guy. It was that jet right there. And then he realized he was going to cut the pylon. If you cut the pylon, it's 8-second penalty, so you basically take last place. So he turned real quick up over this guy, And then I think he turned so fast, violently back to get back into the race that
Yeah.
they call it G-lock, where all the blood went out of his head and he fainted. Because if you watch it right here, like you're gonna see him do a hard right turn, like he's gonna go, oh shit, like he peeled way out,
Yeah.
and now he's turns
just-
wicked back in, and then watch, he just goes. See
Now
it
he's
right
wicked
there,
in,
and
yeah.
now
He's out.
we think because it's a controlled flight into terrain. I mean, just it was horrible.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
How many are in that race?
8.
8?
Mm-hmm.
How do you start a race in air?
So they'll go out, and they'll all form up, and there's a pace plane. So the racetrack's here, and they'll go out about 10 miles, and they'll have the pace plane, and whoever qualified best, 1st to 8.
Oh, okay.
And then they'll come in, and the pace plane's watching them, and if they're all in line looking good, and he'll be barking. I'm like, race 24, they call them race 28, race 15, whatever.
Yeah.
It's interesting. That's what they call their numbers. Like race 24 is P. Like step it up or whatever. I mean, that just gives me the chills.
That's rough.
So then he'll line them all up, and they're about 600 feet off the ground. He'll take them down to about 200 feet off the ground. I go, gentlemen, you got to race, and he'll pill up, and then they're just going.
Are they stacked? Are they stacked like staggered?
Nope.
Or
so it's
just-
all lined up
Just that fastest qualifier or whatever has inside.
because he's got the inside.
He gets the inside.
Yeah, and so then it'll all kind of.
Everybody kind of
Falls
shuffles
in.
in the way that it goes.
But if you go to Google NBC Sports Reno Air Race,
NBC
yeah,
Sports.
Reno Air Race. Type.
Is it here?
Let's try 16. And I think it's a 4-part series. So go to, or 3 of 3, go to 3 of 3. And if I remember right, this is, and you probably have to kind of just scroll forward to the jet race. It's probably like halfway.
Halfway for the jet race. Yeah, I don't know much about the events.
Okay, keep going.
Then you just peel off and
Keep going. All right, leave it here. So that's my plan, right? See the vampire? Watch
Yep.
out, vampire.
yep,
So here's,
he's going up. That's when that
so what year is this?
2016.
Okay, yeah, so this is when he's Maydaying right here. So he's up here just trying to figure out what he's going to do.
getting altitude so he can check out what the hell's going on.
Yep. And reduces airspeed. He wins it, I believe, race number 5. Yeah, Vandam won it. They're averaging about 6 Gs. So then he's out here. Let's see where we're at.
Can you have headsets on as spectators?
No,
So
but
you
if you're
can't
in
hear?
if you're in the jet pits where we sat for this race,
Yeah,
you could hear it.
you can hear it. Was this where the right side canopy went in?
Yeah, so it's already broken.
He's got a wild seat cover on that plane. It looks like one of those like rubber.
What's that bar behind his head?
emergency canopy release.
Is that
So
what it
this is actually a vampire here, but it's the other vampire. See, and it was the right above his right. So
Yep.
on the right side is what broke. So that's the other. Yeah, that's
And is that's are all vampires side by side seating?
yeah. So this is him crashing right here.
Oh my gosh.
Dude, that's a pretty smooth crash.
Look at that.
He's
Two
thinking-
Two floors going in the desert. So
It looks smooth, but I bet it wasn't.
Oh,
I bet
hell
it was
no,
a
dude.
hell of a ride.
Especially-
but so like all we know is he crashed and
Especially as the speed starts getting slower, you're going to start kind of wanting to tumble. Dude, this was fun. I appreciate you coming on, dude.
thanks for having me, kid. It's
It-
awesome.
It means a lot, dude.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hell yeah.
Cool.